Good news for coffee drinkers: the health benefits outweigh the risks for most people. Morgan Wharton and Jessica Coate, National Center for Health Research. Cup of coffee. Coffee benefits. Most Americans drink coffee every day. 1. The caffeine in coffee helps us stay alert but also may cause jitteriness and interfere with sleeping. A few studies suggest that decaffeinated coffee also has health benefits, perhaps because of antioxidants or acids in the coffee beans. What are the health benefits of drinking coffee? For years, medical experts advised people to drink less coffee, mostly because of research suggesting coffee might increase the risk of heart disease. However, numerous studies conducted recently have discovered coffee's unexpected health benefits. Like all well-designed research, most of these studies considered the impact of age, sex, body mass index, BMI, physical activity, tobacco use, and whether family members had developed cancer. By controlling for those factors, researchers made sure they could separate coffee's impact on health from the effects of people's lifestyle and previous health problems. For the largest study, published in 2018, researchers at the U.S. National Cancer Institute and Northwestern University evaluated coffee consumption of almost 500,000 adults in the United Kingdom. 3. They concluded that the more coffee that a person drank, ranging from 0 cups per day to 8 or more per day, the less likely they were to die of cancer or cardiovascular disease over the years of the study. The differences were statistically significant and did not vary by sex, age, BMI, diabetes, or history of cancer, heart attack, or stroke. The benefits of coffee were significant for decaffeinated coffee, instant coffee, or ground coffee, but somewhat weaker for instant coffee. These researchers also examined the impact of common genetic polymorphisms that affect the speed of caffeine metabolism, and found that did not affect the beneficial impact of coffee. A study published in 2022 of 171,616 healthy adults in the UK showed that people who drank larger quantities of unsweetened or sugar-sweetened coffee on a daily basis were less likely to die from any cause over the 7 years of the study, controlling for age, sex, smoking, physical activity, and obesity, and also less likely to die from heart disease or cancer. 4. Surprisingly, the researchers did not find that drinking more artificially sweetened coffee daily had an impact on dying during the next 7 years. However, the data in that study was about 10 years old and coffee drinking is less common in the UK than the US. 5. So the results might differ for more recent coffee drinkers in the US. Colorectal cancer. Meta-analyses are a kind of statistic that combine data from several comparable studies to make one very large study. These results are usually more accurate than any one study can be. Taken together, 3 meta-analyses suggest that drinking about 4 or more cups of coffee per day may reduce the chances of getting colorectal cancer by 11-24%. 6, 7, 8. Endometrial, uterine, cancer. Using data from 67,470 women who participated in the Nurses' Health Study, researchers found that women who drank 4 or more cups of coffee per day were 25% less likely to develop endometrial cancer than women who drank only 1 cup of coffee per day. Compared to women who did not drink any coffee, those who drank 4 cups or more per day were 30% less likely to develop endometrial cancer. Decaffeinated coffee was just as effective as caffeinated coffee, but caffeinated tea did not lower the risk of endometrial cancer. 9. Liver cancer and cirrhosis, scarring of the liver/chronic liver disease. One study found that people who drank only 1 or 2 cups of coffee per day had a slightly lower risk of getting the most common type of liver cancer compared to non-drinkers. But people who drank 3 or 4 cups of coffee were about half as likely as non-drinkers to get this kind of liver cancer. Meanwhile, people who drank 5 or more cups per day had an even lower risk than that, about 1/3 the risk of non-drinkers. 10. Similarly, a study in Japan found a 76% decrease in the risk of that type of liver cancer in people who drank at least 5 cups of coffee per day compared to those who did not drink coffee. The strongest benefit was seen in individuals with hepatitis C, a disease which increases a person's risk of developing liver cancer, although the researchers were not sure why. 11. A study of 120,000 Americans over an 8-year period found a 22% decrease in the chances of developing cirrhosis for each daily cup of coffee. In Norway, a 17-year study of 51,000 citizens found that those who drank 2 or more cups of coffee per day were 40% less likely to develop cirrhosis compared to those who did not consume coffee. 12. Skin cancer. Using data from 2 enormous studies, the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals' Follow-up Study, researchers found that men and women who drank more than 3 cups of caffeinated coffee per month were 17% less likely to develop basal cell carcinoma compared to people who drank less than 1 cup per month. Basal cell carcinoma is the most common and least dangerous type of skin cancer. Drinking decaffeinated coffee did not affect basal cell carcinoma. 13. A 2014 study in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute found that the more coffee participants drank, the less likely they were to develop malignant melanoma over a 10-year period. Melanoma is the most dangerous form of skin cancer. Almost 450,000 whites, aged 50 to 71, participated in the study. Researchers found that drinking 4 or more cups of coffee per day was linked to a 20% lower risk of getting malignant melanoma. Once again, drinkers of decaffeinated coffee lost out. Their risk of getting melanoma was no different from that of non-coffee drinkers. Coffee drinking, however, did not affect the least dangerous form of melanoma, called melanoma in situ. Remember that no matter how much coffee with caffeine you drink, the best way to prevent skin cancer is still to limit your time exposed to the sun and ultraviolet light. 14. Type 2 diabetes. People in Finland consume more coffee than almost any other nation, and a study of 14,000 people over 12 years found that men who drank 10 or more cups of coffee daily had a 55% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes mellitus than men who drank 2 cups of coffee a day or fewer. Even more dramatic, women who drank 10 or more cups per day had a 79% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes than those who drank fewer than 2 cups daily. 15. A different Finnish study of 5,000 sets of identical twins found that individuals who drank more than 7 cups of coffee per day had a 35% lower risk of type 2 diabetes than their twins who drank 2 cups or fewer per day. 16. Because identical twins are so biologically similar, the difference in disease risk is very likely caused by coffee consumption levels. Studies of fewer people in other countries have found less dramatic but similarly positive results. Parkinson's disease. A study of more than 8,000 Japanese American men found that men who did not drink coffee at all were 3 to 5 times more likely to develop Parkinson's disease within 30 years than men who drank 4.5 cups or more of coffee per day. 16. Suicide. Because suicide may be related to alcohol intake, medications, and stress levels, suicide studies took those factors into account. A 10-year study of 128,000 people in California found that the risk of suicide decreased by 13% for every additional cup of coffee consumed per day. Even 1 cup of coffee per day seemed to reduce the risk of suicide. A different 10-year study of 86,000 women found a 50% lower risk of suicide for those who drank 2 or more cups of coffee per day compared to women who did not drink coffee. 16. Brain power and aging. A study of 676 healthy men born between 1900 and 1920 suggested that coffee helped with information processing and slowed the cognitive decline typical of aging. Cognitive functioning was measured by the Mini-Mental State Examination, a 30-point scale. Men who regularly consumed coffee experienced an average decline of 1.2 points over 10 years, while men who did not drink coffee saw a decline of 2.6 points over 10 years. Men who drank 3 cups of coffee per day declined only 0.6 points over 10 years. 17. Even old mice are sharper with caffeine. A study using a mouse model of Alzheimer's disease showed that coffee actually reversed the cognitive decline and slowdown in processing that occurred with age. Mice given caffeine in their water showed signs of recovering their memory during testing. 18. What about the risks? Childbearing. 2 separate studies found that 300 milligrams of caffeine, 2 to 3 cups of coffee, decreased a woman's chances of getting pregnant by more than a third. This same amount of coffee also increased the chances of women having low birth weight babies by 50%. These studies took into account potentially influential factors such as contraception used in the past and infertility history. 19. A 2016 study conducted by NIH researchers linked caffeine to miscarriage. The study found that couples who each consumed 2 or more caffeinated beverages a day in the weeks before conception were at a higher risk of having a miscarriage. This risk was as strongly linked to male partners consuming caffeinated beverages as it was linked to females. In addition, women who drank more than 2 daily caffeinated beverages during the first 7 weeks of pregnancy were also more likely to miscarry. 20. A 2018 study conducted in Norway showed the harmful impact on children's growth of drinking caffeine during pregnancy. Pregnant women who drank more than the recommended limit of 200 milligrams of caffeine, or 2 to 3 cups of coffee per day, tended to have children above the 75th percentile of weight for their age groups. Children of pregnant women who drank more caffeine than the recommended limit had a higher risk of being overweight through the age of 8. After that, other factors come into play to affect weight, such as the environment, food, and physical activity. 21. Hip fracture. According to data from the Nurses' Health Study, women aged 65 and over who drank more than 4 cups of coffee per day had almost 3 times as many hip fractures over the next 6 years as women who did not drink coffee. Researchers took important factors into consideration such as how much calcium the women consumed each day. 22. Parkinson's disease among postmenopausal women taking estrogen-only hormone therapy. Other researchers used data from the Nurses' Health Study to evaluate the risk of Parkinson's disease among women who drank coffee while using estrogen medication after menopause. For women who were not using estrogen therapy, those who drank 4 or more cups of coffee per day were about half as likely to develop Parkinson's disease as women who did not drink coffee. For women who did use postmenopausal estrogen, however, those who drank 4 or more cups of coffee were about twice as likely as those who didn't drink coffee to develop Parkinson's. 23. Heart disease. 2 different meta-analyses found that people who drank 5 or more cups of coffee per day had a 40 to 60% more likely to develop heart disease compared to those who did not drink coffee at all. Other studies have also shown that high coffee use, 5 to 10 cups per day, increases the risk of heart disease, while moderate consumption, 3 to 4 cups daily, was not associated with a higher risk. Only coffee drinkers who consumed more than 9 cups a day had a greater risk of dying from heart disease. 24. It is important to consider that people drinking close to 10 cups of coffee a day are likely to have other health problems, such as stress or sleep deprivation, and this could contribute to higher risk of heart disease and death regardless of coffee use. The bottom line. For most people, drinking coffee seems to improve health more than harm it. Many of coffee's health benefits increase with the number of cups per day, but even 1 cup a day lowers the risk of several diseases. However, women who want to get pregnant or already are pregnant and women over 65 should probably limit their coffee intake because, in their case, the risks may outweigh the health benefits. Even though many studies show coffee has benefits, it's still not clear why. How can one popular beverage help metabolism, for example, lowering the risk of type 2 diabetes, and also protect against a range of cancers? Until further research can solve that puzzle, most adults should continue to enjoy their cup, or 2, or 3, of Joe. Finally, remember that nearly all studies on coffee and health have been done on adults. Coffee may affect children and teens differently.